All right, we are live. So, welcome everybody to. I think this is my third YouTube live stream, that I've been doing weekly. It's pretty cool. I just realized there's not sound for Worldbox. I've got to fix that. I was playing it off the air, so I've got to do that here. All right, and then so we've got. I think this is supposed to be Mexico, something like it. Anyway, we've got this here, so that's cool. And naturally, this is a pretty different live stream that we have today. We're going to be going over my first comic, obviously, not just me, but with the amazing artist, Joshua. Say hi, Joshua. Oh, is that how you say it? Wait. I think... Hold on. I think they can't hear you. Should have done that before. Alright.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, now they can. Sorry.
Oh, perfect. All right. So what I was saying, hi, I'm Joshua. If there's anyone in the league watching, you guys might know me by Chuchua.
Choo-choo.
And I'm drawing the comic with Roxy.
I always thought that it was Cho-cho-wa. That's how I pronounced it.
Yeah, it's a weird one to pronounce. It's
Choo-choo.
Yeah, Chuchua. It's from an old Dutch children's song.
Okay.
Was my name in Dutch Joshua kind of sounds like it almost, so
yeah. Yeah, it does.
That always used to be the thing.
Clever. That's actually... There's a lot of thought put into that. That's clever. I like it.
Yeah.
Okay. So, anyway. Yeah, so we are, of course, as he just said, we're creating an original graphic novel, so it's a self-contained story called Nevel. Am I saying that correctly with the L and everything?
Yeah, the Nevel.
The Nevel. Okay.
Yeah, perfect.
Nevel. Yeah. It's more of a dark L than a la, like we have in English. So.
Yeah.
And I just asked that because Joshua is from the Netherlands, so it's a Netherlandish, I guess you could say, book set in the Netherlands. So it's obviously I'm American. That's public knowledge. So it's stepping outside of my comfort zone, but stepping into his. So that's an interesting take. So do you have anything to say about it?
Well, I mean, yeah, pretty much that. Like we're kind of I'm leaving all of the writing and stuff. Of course, to Roxy, I'm completely inexperienced with it. But yeah, because it's set in the Netherlands and I'm Dutch myself, I kind of like bring in some context there, I guess.
So so we're both for the creative process behind it, and obviously I'm writing and doing the story part of it, but for actually coming up with everything, we're both doing it. So
yeah.
So that's different, I think, than a lot of comics, where it's usually just the writer and then the artist has to interpret it. You're actually helping out with a lot there too.
Yeah, I feel like very often it's kind of like the writer would have an idea and then hire an artist when there's a bit more laid out already, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, the all of the concepting and now it's kind of the stage we're in now is a lot of bouncing off ideas between each other. Super cool, super fun.
And yeah, it's been going pretty well too, I think, at least. So, as the title mentioned, it is an open Q&A, so if you guys have any questions about us and our works, or this specifically, just let us know in the live chat, and we will get to that. I have it right in front of me, so just like previous live streams, so we'll get to that. And we'll let you know if we can't answer a question for whatever reason, but we should be able to answer pretty much anything. So,
Yeah, exactly. Maybe some stuff that we want to keep to ourselves still in case of spoilers, but in general, like any questions, go ahead, shoot.
Yeah, and we won't. Yeah, that being said, we won't give away any spoilers today, but we will be talking at length about it, so you know what to expect if you want to buy it, stuff like that. I will say we haven't decided on a price or an exact length of it, but it will be an original graphic novel. I think we've decided it's going to be well over 32 pages, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think we're going to shoot. The original talks were for what, like 116 pages, whatever the standard graphic novel is, like 6-issue graphic novel. But but we're not exactly sure how long it's going to be. We're going to release it digitally, so that doesn't constrain us a lot there. It scales back the constraining.
Exactly.
So,
the only thing that it kind of influences is how long we're spending on it. You know,
right.
more pages will take more time, of course, but
yeah,
yeah.
we don't have any deadline set right now, but we're getting to the point in the development that I think we can set some. Like for myself, I'm planning on the script being done around Christmas time. That's when I'm setting that for myself, and I'm just now telling you this, but
Okay.
I just thought about that, and I'm like, I think I can make that happen. So that's my goal there.
Yeah.
How long the art will take, I can't guess, and of course we don't know how long it's going to be, but
Exactly.
yeah.
I'll need to check out how many pages I'll be able to get done within a set of time. Um, but yeah, it'll be. I think we'll be able to release within 2025. Then, like,
Oh yeah,
given that time frame, that seems really doable.
yeah. I'm thinking. My thought, and I haven't obviously checked with you, but my thought was spring or summer 2025. So we'll have to see, but I think that's doable from my end at least.
Yeah, that sounds
I
good.
guess. Okay. Obviously, we'll keep you guys updated if something changes, but that's what we're planning on right now. So the setting, I see the setting here. The setting is set in. Can you pronounce it? I can say it, I think, but do you want to judge me or do you want to say it? And
Go ahead and try. I think that would
okay,
be fun.
okay. I've been saying it Zandvoort. Is that correct?
That's everyone will know what you mean. It's
Okay.
what we say is Zandvoort.
Sont Vort
Zand.
Vort.
Kind of
I'm
like a
always
aw sound. Zandvoort.
Vort. Yeah. Okay. Sont. So you say the Z as an S, basically an English S. Sont. Sont.
Pretty much, yeah.
Sont Vort. Okay.
Zandvoort.
I know German, as you know, but
Mhm.
I'm not nearly as familiar with Dutch. So
Yeah.
I always want to say things like it's German, and I have to correct for that based on what I know of Dutch, and I'm always wrong. So,
Yeah.
but that's
Yeah,
good.
it's
People
Dutch
would
is
know
one
what
of
I
those
mean.
languages that kind of has its like weird quirks with its
Yeah,
pronunciation.
yeah. Okay, so Zandvoort, which is, if you don't know, if you're not familiar, it's a beach town. You know, not unlike, I'd say, Virginia Beach or places like that, and it's a smaller city, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's not that
it's not
big.
that big. It's actually quite close to where I live.
Oh, cool. Did not know.
Um, and I'm not that big into Formula One, but
Mm,
for those of you guys that are, that you probably know it from there as well. I think they have their events and stuff more often there.
yeah. So that's where it's going to be taking place, and it's going to focus, I'd say, a lot on the setting. I mean, it starts off with focusing on the setting, and it's going to stay on that throughout. So
Yeah,
that's one
for
of my
sure.
big things. Is I think so many comics are set in just New York or Los Angeles. It gets really annoying
Mhm.
after a while because, of course, those are great places and very influential places, but they're not just in America, which is where most comics are from, so it makes sense, but there's just so many stories there and so many people from there. It's like, can we get a spotlight on somewhere else, please? So
Right, exactly.
that was one of my thoughts for setting it there.
Yeah.
Not just the Netherlands, but specifically in Zandvoort. There we go. It's gonna take me a bit
Nice.
to get used to it.
It's getting better though.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah.
Yeah, and the setting is it's like I want to put this. That's kind of been my main thing I'm focusing on now as well.
Yeah.
I'd say our protagonist, we pretty much have uh, a working design for her.
Mhm.
Where I'm really much trying to figure out like.
I'm gonna go ahead and show that actually because I
Yeah.
have it pulled up. Where is it? Here it is. So this middle one here is the design we have. So.
Yeah, I'm not seeing it on the stream, but that might be
You're
because
not?
I'm a bit late.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. And then do we have? Yeah, and here's some concept art of it in action. So that's the design we're working off of. I like it. It I don't know. It combines fashion and style of I think several decades. So I think it works pretty well. Should be coming up for you soon. There is a bit of a delay on there.
Yeah. It showed up as well, so
Okay,
it's
cool.
working perfectly. Nice.
So yeah, those are the design. That's the little peek that you'll get into it. We do have more planned and stuff, and a few more images, but that's what we'll be showing for now. Also, I did want to discuss with you, but I I hadn't mentioned anything. There's a horror YouTuber that I follow. She does mostly survival horror games. She plays them and talks about them. Named Early Bird. She got her start, I think, just last year, but she makes mostly pretty long form content, and she just released a video about how scary refrigerators are. And she goes into depth about sort of the history of it through horror games and movies and such. And there is such a trend. It is really a common thing. And I did not realize, because of course, the fridging with Kyle Rayner's girlfriend and everything, and that's where she starts the conversation. But even in horror games, it's a common theme. And even in Silent Hill 1, which I didn't even remember, but you can die in Silent Hill 1 if you open a refrigerator. It shoots out a tongue and pulls you in and kills you.
That's crazy. That's really interesting that's such a recurring
thing.
thing.
It was a big deal back in the 50s and 60s, where refrigerators, they were different than they look now, a lot easier to get in. And so children would get in there and it would suffocate them because they would close it and couldn't get back out. It would lock them in. And so there's even PSAs, American PSAs, about don't let your children use the refrigerator, basically. It's crazy stuff. So I recommend her video, and I think I'll put it in a pinned comment or something, but I just thought about that. And that's funny, because separately, of course, we talked about the refrigerator scare that we're going to have. And I'll show you the actual refrigerator it's based on, and I'll talk a little bit about that, because I think it's going to be, a part of the story there. So that's the refrigerator. You'll see it shortly. And as it says, clean and works well. It was not. So it was a pretty musty. I'll tell the story here. It was a pretty musty sort of area that this is in, or was in. It's gone now. The person bought it. Ugh. And so to the right of this picture, there's a door right there, right, that leads to the outside. That's fine, but it also leads to a basement. There's lots of spiders around because nobody's touched this area for quite a while. This is in a comic shop, so it's relevant. And very scary sort of place. And of course, I'm deathly afraid of spiders, especially bigger ones. I understand they don't care about me, and they're afraid of me too, but they still scare me. And that, combined with the mold and just the decrepit atmosphere, was just terrifying. and it's stale air in there. It's so bad. And then there's this refrigerator. And, naturally, being a curious species, I wanted to open it, and it was like a horror game or anything when you look where you shouldn't. And I opened it because there were a few flies or whatever around, and I opened it, and it is encased with these blood red bugs and their juices leaking around the whole thing. The thing smells like a rotting carcass, or 10 of them have been shoved in there. It's completely empty, except they're lined all around the entire thing, and it stinks of death. And I freaked out. It was hilarious. Yeah. Oh, if you could have seen it. But I had to take a picture of this because I'm like, alright, that's going in the horror comic. So something just like that pretty much will go in there. So if you see this fridge, you know what's coming. I think we'll even include the font and everything on it. Just
we should.
We should. Clean and works well in the in the place.
And I really hope that the guy that bought the fridge isn't watching this, because that's nasty.
It is. Well, if he does, I don't really care, because I feel like he should know, you know?
Yeah, that's fair. If you buy an old fridge from, like...
A comic shop. It's from a comic shop. It's a comic shop, yeah. He bought it from I don't really understand. I'm not working at that comic shop anymore. I don't know if I told you. I'm still working at the company that owns it, but I haven't gone back to this city for a week now because of that. Yeah. Well, that was one of the reasons.
Fair enough.
So, yeah. Probably the biggest reason was they don't have an AC in the building. But yeah,
that's killer.
I got out of there as soon as possible. So and the fridge was gone the next day, but I had to pick it up as well. Oh, I forgot to mention, I had to pick it up, and the door was several inches away from my face. I had to do that same day. It was terrifying, and the door can swing open without human intervention. So I held it tightly. I held it more tightly than I've ever held something. I've held it closed more tightly than anything ever before.
Yeah,
it was terrifying. With all of that being so close to my face, it was terrible experience. So, anyway, I wanted to share that. It's, I don't know, I might even make it a plot point just because of how much
it affected you.
It scarred me. While talking about it, I could smell the stench of all those bugs. But I just thought it's just the perfect like scare, you know, with all the, because they really were blood red bugs. Even after they died, they still like leaked blood red juices. I don't know. Bugs normally have like clear blood, so I don't get that. But I don't know, and I couldn't tell you what type of bugs they were, but they were about the size of gnats. And they flew around like gnats. They could have been gnats, but they looked... I got a look at their bodies with all of them in there, and so they were round like beetles, you know. So, not quite sure, but...
Yeah, that sounds really... I'm so glad I wasn't in the room with you at that moment.
Yeah, I think... Yeah, everyone would be. It was pretty bad, but it was also a good thing because I have trypophobia, which, if you don't know, that's fear of, like, you know, a bunch of little holes and things like that. Yeah. And I also have a thing with tubes, and so beehives, like the insides of those and stuff, just freak me out. Or, you know, a bunch of little holes and things getting under the skin, like...
oh, yeah.
What is it? You know, that sort of fly that can... tunnel under the skin and lay eggs and stuff like that. That stuff freaks me out.
That's so that's terrible.
And so with all of them creating this, you know, lining around the fridge, it sort of had that effect with, you know, all of these little dots all over the place. So it had that scare factor to it too. So I think it would make a really good scare. That's why we're putting it in, you know. Not just that it affected me so much, but I think it really works. So anyway.
Yeah, I think a lot of people resonate with just that.
Yeah.
Everything about the situation being incredibly uncomfortable.
So I'm still not sure how it's going to factor into the plot, but I feel like it's perfect. But yeah, we got to add the clean and works well thing.
Yeah,
that's the best.
The note makes it.
So Anyway, sorry I talked about a refrigerator for so long, but I'll send you the link, and like I said, I'll put the link in the description to Early Bird's video about refrigerators.
Oh, right,
It's
right.
fascinating. I knew a little bit of it because obviously she brought up the Kyle Rayner thing, and that's Gail Simone coining fridging for us comic book fans. That's a very common thing to hear about, but you don't hear about those 50s PSAs and stuff, and like she even played one in the video, and it's fascinating stuff that it's this recurring theme of the fear of refrigerators and the smells and everything surrounding it. It's just really interesting stuff. So it's not that long of a video. It's like 13 minutes or something. So anyway, I implore you, anyone watching, go watch that video if you could find it, or I'll link it later. So I don't want to spoil the end. That was one thing. We talked a little bit before we got into this. I didn't mention that. Let's not talk about the end.
Yeah.
But
I
there
kind of
is,
figured, but
there
that's
is
good.
a big
Good to
end.
know.
But yeah. I figured you figured, but if you didn't figure, I figured I would tell you.
Nice, yeah.
So the idea, which is, I've said before, it's kind of similar to Silent Hill. Kind of similar. That's where I got the idea from. But a big difference is there won't be a whole lot of otherworld switching, and the otherworld has an actual name as well. So it's not just called the otherworld, and it's this sort of mysterious thing. There are answers to be found, but we're also not going to just explain everything and hand it off to you. And I just realized that there's only one nation on the screen, but they have a massive military. Look at this. There's like, what, 6 different military groups? That's crazy. They're a world government, and they have such a big military. I don't know. Maybe it's also a police force. Anyway. Sorry. So, yeah, so what's it called? It's called Nastrond. That's how it's pronounced.
Yeah, I was wondering how it was pronounced.
Yeah, I believe. I'm gonna look it up just to make sure, but I believe that's how it's pronounced. And I may have put too much of an accent on the R, but I can read IPA, so.
Oh, nice.
So it could be Nostrond. Let me see. Give me Wiktionary, not Wikipedia. I consult Wiktionary all the time. All the time. Wikidata. No. Maybe it doesn't have a page for it. I just know so much about it. Well, yeah, I know enough about Old Norse. It's Nostrond or Nastrond, whichever you prefer. It depends, and the A with an acute accent has changed sound over time. It's different in Icelandic now and stuff like that. So, but that's how it's pronounced, and it translates to corpse shore, if you didn't know, which ties it. I naturally thought of that when we dive into the place, which is Zondvoort. Is that it? Yeah. Trying to get the pronunciation. I can spell it, but where that's a beach, and so it's a different sort of setting because obviously the ancient Norse people were more in Scandinavia than in Dutchland, in the Netherlands. But the Netherlands is, of course, extremely Germanic with its culture, language, everything like that, and they have a lot of the same myths and legends and that sort of thing.
Hello?
Hi, can you hear me?
Hi. My Wi-Fi just got cut off for like the last 10 seconds, so
Oh man,
I just missed that whole part, but
that's fine. That's fine. I was just saying that the Netherlands is extremely Germanic. That's where the people came from and everything, and so you guys have Germanic legends and myths and stuff that are shared basically with the ancient Norse peoples as well. So it makes sense to have sort of Norse mythology inspired setting.
Yeah.
For the other world and all. And that is one of my major influences. Obviously, I'm a Norse pagan, so I have a lot of experience with Norse paganism, and I've read a lot of the sources and everything, and so I know a lot about Norse mythology. And so that's one of the directions that I'm coming from with this comic is sort of a Darse, yes, Darse, made a new word, dark Norse mythology. Even though I don't think any gods will be included, like by name or anything like that, because that's not the focus of it. But it will be, you will see, if you're familiar with the Norse hell and everything like that, you'll recognize some of the elements there and everything. One of them being Nostrund, so, which, did you hear what I said about that? What it means and everything?
Yeah, the Corp Shore.
Yes, Corp Shore.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so I think that's an interesting element. So that's the other world's name that that Tessa, that's the main character, will be traveling to. I just realized we didn't even say the main character's name until just now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's Tessa. So, yeah, so that's where that'll go. Do you have? I've been talking a lot. Do you have anything to say?
I mean, about this, that pretty much captures the idea we have, right? Like the having the other world and that sort of horror feel in there. Might be interesting to mention is kind of what we're leaning towards visually. Or at least what I've been looking a lot at has been like the works of Beksinski, and maybe kind of that gritty feel. But at the same time, a lot of the we have like a shared Pinterest board, right, where we're putting stuff up. And there's a lot of more, I'd say, almost liminal stuff here. So I'm kind of, at least for the art, trying to think of a way to strike a balance between that, to really have a clear distinction between the other world and Sunfort without making it too, without just making another hellscape, if you know what I mean.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's a big part of it, is we want, our stuff to be different. We don't want it to be just another thing, because like the Plains of Oblivion and stuff like that is, it's cool, just the typical hell is pretty cool, but it's not exactly what we're going for.
Right.
We want to make it stand out. It's not just Silent Hill. It's not just what was the place that you like? I forget the name already.
Caelid in Elden Ring.
Caelid, yeah.
Yeah, it was one of the references I was pulling from for a bit.
Yeah, it's not just anything. It's a combination of elements from lots of other things to make something new. Plus our own style and interpretation. So, and it's going to be your first comic ever. Obviously, you've done plenty of art before, but it's going to be your first comic, right?
Yeah, it's going to be my first comic, and it's actually which is weird for the fact that I love reading comics and stuff, but I haven't really drawn much sequentially. Like recently, I've been playing around with doing pages and doing stuff like that. But I think this would be a really cool like step into this.
Yeah, and it'll be my first more traditional style comic. I'm also doing a book of comic strips called Doug and Birch that might be out by the end of the year. I'm not sure if you're wondering about that, but that doesn't have a consistent through line or anything. It just has a style and that sort of thing. So this will be my first traditional comic with story planned out ahead of time and everything like that. So anyway, do we have anything else really to talk about? We went through all three of the images that I wanted to focus on. Tessa's a photojournalist. If you didn't get that from the concept art,
Oh, right.
um,
That's
so
interesting
that's
to mention as well.
that's going to play a big part into how she thinks about things, how she focuses on things, and she'll be taking lots of pictures, I imagine,
Hmm.
throughout it. And unlike some Japanese horror movies and stuff, the pictures will actually take. You know, you can actually see all the horrible things happening.
Yeah, yeah.
So whether or not it'll matter in the end, you'll just have to find out. But we'll be there. So let me scour the document we have here for anything else. You brought up the Pinterest board. One of the things that, of course,
Right.
I'm very influenced by is where I live, which is Appalachia. And in Appalachia, I don't know if you've checked the Pinterest board recently, but I added a ton of things, like probably
Yeah,
70
yeah.
things or
That's
something.
I've seen all of that stuff.
Yeah. So I'm not sure how well it'll fit, but I'm going to
Mhm.
try to combine the sort of beachy environment that the comic set in with the rot and abandoned houses that are abundant throughout Appalachia. There's so many abandoned buildings here that
Yeah.
I've seen firsthand. You know, all of those that I pinned. Obviously, I haven't seen those specifically in real life,
Mhm.
but I've seen and been in so many just like it because they're
Yeah.
just so prevalent here. So I think the sort of abandoned atmosphere of those is something good that we can pull from too.
That's kind of interesting as well. Kind of like a cultural difference is that in the Netherlands, since everything is so tightly packed together,
Mm.
you ever see anything happen.
Okay.
But so that might be really cool as well to work into the comic if like since Dunford is such a um densely packed area, you know, you have the beach which have so many houses and whatnot. And then
Mm.
going from that to maybe Nastron?
Yes, you got
Uh,
it. You got it.
going from that to maybe where there it's more desolate.
Mm.
I think
Okay.
that could be really cool as well.
Yeah. Okay, so I was wondering how to play with that, but yeah, that's a good idea. Have the separation of the other world and the living world with the abandoned buildings. That's interesting.
Mm.
Yeah, Europe is generally like that, where you don't see that nearly as much abandoned buildings, like you were saying. But I didn't even think about it. It's such a different experience. Here, there's so much space. I live in a mostly rural area, even though I live in a city, decently big city, and just so much around me is rural. You have to go to rural areas to get anywhere here, really, and it's just yeah. So there's so much abandoned, there's so much left behind, and then when you go north to the Rust Belt, obviously there's a lot there. Do you know what the Rust Belt is? I just realized
No,
you might not.
what's
Oh, okay. The Rust Belt goes from, I think, Detroit to New York City.
uh-huh.
Um, I think that's what it is. We learn about it in school here. It's
Oh, wow.
the so like the Bible Belt, which I live in, which is a massive swath of the American South. Southeast,
Mhm.
the American South, is extremely Protestant and religious in general.
Yeah.
The Rust Belt is pretty different, where it's not focusing on religion but industry. So a lot of steel mills were throughout there because it was good for mining iron, I
Right.
guess, and that sort of thing. And so steel was massive production, and obviously Detroit is big on cars, and Philadelphia steel, and the Steelers. That's because of the industry there and stuff like that. So that was their main industry, where in Appalachia it's coal. And so the Rust Belt, all throughout the Rust Belt, you'll go and see all these abandoned steel mills, all these just tons and tons of industry that's just left behind, completely abandoned. So many abandoned buildings. And it's called the Rust Belt because now all the iron that was used that's left behind has now rusted, so it's called the Rust Belt.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's the Midwest to New England. So I've barely been myself, but it's an interesting sort of thing. So I don't even remember why I brought that up now, but there's a lot of abandoned buildings in America. But yeah, that's different than the Netherlands, where everything has to be reused, especially with the Netherlands, since there's so little space compared to America specifically. I realize it's not actually small, when you're there. But
Yeah, when you're there, it feels like, I mean, I grew up here, so to me it just feels um like that's the size a country should be. If
yeah,
that makes sense.
that's funny.
Um, but yeah, no, it's tiny, and
Yeah.
the Netherlands is like it's pretty cool because it was so small. We started just taking land back from the ocean.
Yeah.
Um,
That's so fascinating to me. It's like, no, screw you, ocean. I know you're massive, but you don't need this land. We're just gonna
that's all. It's like,
water. Get out of here.
yeah.
So
It's kind of scary as well though, because so much of the Netherlands, where I live as well, is just below sea level.
oh man,
Um,
yeah, that's gotta be.
yeah, so if our dams ever fail, that's like, I mean,
That we
better
could,
know how to swim, I guess.
yeah, that could be possibly a scare that we use too. Is that fear of it? Very specific sort of fear.
Oh yeah.
But we could try to need to workshop that some more. But if you're interested,
Mhm.
we could try to fit that in there. Here where
That's
I
cool,
am,
because that's a very Dutch,
yeah,
very
yeah,
Dutch thing.
yeah. I don't know if that's a thing anywhere else, honestly. Yeah. Um. So I will say I live in Appalachia, which obviously has no beaches. If you look at
Right.
Appalachia, if you pull it up on Wikipedia or anything, the massive swath of land is just mountains. It's pretty much mountain and forest. That's all it is. And so that's where I've grown up. That's what I know the best. And I could just walk out into the forest and never return and be fine. But I have been to the beach many a time. I used to go every year, but it's actually not something that I like. I don't like the kitschy nature of it. I don't like the I like the ocean, but I don't really like the beach part of it. And so that's one of the reasons why I chose it as this location, is because I don't like it.
Okay.
Because I think that'll lend itself better to the horror. I don't know. It's just something that I don't have such an appreciation for, but I understand because I've been there so much. Obviously not the same as where it's set, but it is the same ocean. So there's that. Just
That's
the other
true,
side of it.
It is the same
It's
ocean.
we've looked at the same ocean, you and I. I'm not in California, so. But that's interesting. Yeah, that's a totally different fear than here, because I think I'm also below sea level, but I live in a valley surrounded by mountains. So the ocean
Oh,
would have
right,
to go
yeah.
over those mountains to get anywhere here. And I'm about 5 hours from the closest beach, which I won't say what it is, because
You don't want to
people
dock yourself just yet.
yeah,
but,
people still don't know what state I'm in. But
uh-huh.
anyway, Appalachia does include like 5 different states, I think. So I
5
mean,
different states, wow.
something like that. Appalachia's big, man. But yeah, anyway. But I don't know. It's sort of there's I heard something recently, which is, before 1776, with the war for independence with America, Americans thought of themselves, the colonists thought of themselves less like Americans or colonists and more of whatever state they belonged to or colony they belonged to.
Oh, that's interesting.
And for me at least, that's how I still feel about it. I consider myself less of an American. I think of myself less of an American than I do an Appalachian, because
Right.
that more influences my culture and standing and stuff like that than anyone in Los Angeles. I don't see them as anything like me, but we're both American. So because they're so far away and everything, they're so different. So
Actually,
I don't know.
it kind of makes sense because like a state is pretty much the size
Yeah.
of the Netherlands. I mean, the
Yeah.
state's bigger than the Netherlands. Like,
Right.
Texas is fucking huge.
I know,
What?
right? Yeah. Texas is huge compared to any state around here. I mean, it's
Yeah.
crazy. Yeah, I when I went to Arizona, we and of course Arizona is not even one of the biggest states, and it's next to one of the biggest states, but it's not even the biggest state. And we drove around, and you can just go for miles and miles and miles straight ahead, just going on for several hours in the desert. There's nothing around, no civilization. If you broke down, you can't even get a cell signal. There's nobody there.
Oh, wow.
No power lines, nothing. It's just the desert and the highway and the mountains in the distance. Not even mountains next to you, it's mountains in the distance. It's crazy. America is massive. And I don't think I really realized that until I went to Arizona. I've been to, I did a thing, I haven't even been to the majority of the states. I've been to only 9 of them out of all 50. So, and then Bahamas and Bermuda, so very different experience. But I've never even been to Europe, so this will be a challenge writing a very European book as an American who's never been to Europe. But of course,
I mean,
Europe,
you have a European on the team, so
I have a European on the team. I have European friends, and I studied Europe pretty much all throughout school. Specifically Germany, because I was learning German. So I am much more attuned to the European experience than I'd say most Americans, but I also haven't been. So I'm definitely going to consult you on things, make sure it's European enough, but also give it that American flair. That was one of the reasons why I, wanted to do the project in the first place. Is it's an international project in the truest sense. It's between nations, 2 different nations, so it'll give it a very unique sort of standing compared to even Silent Hill games, with them being made by the Japanese for Americans, for an American audience. And of course those worked well, so I imagine this will work well too.
exactly. There's no reason they shouldn't.
Yeah. Since I brought that up in the Rust Belt and Appalachia, there's a place in Appalachia, in central Pennsylvania, appropriately named Centralia. If you look it up, you won't find it on any maps, probably, because it's not there anymore. Because it's gone. And I don't know if have I told you about the story of Centralia?
I don't think you have.
Okay, are you interested? Should I tell you?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. So I've actually been to Centralia, and the Team Silent, the people working on Silent Hill, I don't know if they went there, but that's what they based Silent Hill off of, the location. So it's nicknamed the real life Silent Hill. So what happened was, obviously I said, Appalachia focuses on coal, and it still does, coal mining. So in the 1960s, around 63 I think, there were people living in this small town in Centralia, pretty much in the middle of Pennsylvania. And somehow the coal accidentally got lit on fire. And that's not a good thing, because obviously...
that sounds pretty
bad. The coal mines, specifically, not the stuff they had mined. And, coal burns pretty well, and the coal continued to burn. And the roads started breaking up and exploding with gas, with toxic fumes and fog, but not fog, like toxic fume fog, like started encasing the town. So the whole thing was a smoky sort of area where you could be killed at any time because you breathed in too much carbon monoxide and such. There was even an account where one kid was just like walking down the road and a sinkhole opened up down hundreds of feet below, and he fell but grabbed the edge like it's in a movie or something. And fortunately he was helped up and saved by I think his brother, but he almost died there, and then his family moved away after that. And now there are only about 4 people still living there. And the fires still burn underneath of the town, and probably will for the next 500 years or so, because there's so much coal there.
Wow.
It's a crazy story, but it's been wiped off the map. The government has shut down most of the area and force moved most of the people to other parts of Pennsylvania, and it's just a crazy place. So I've actually gone and visited, and since it's a condemned area, most of the places that were homes and everything have been reclaimed by nature or demolished, and so you'll see rubble, you'll see people who were squatting there and stuff like that, and it's a crazy place to visit. So I got to go a few years back because I'm such a fan of Silent Hill, and so I'm gonna bring that experience, obviously, and I still have pictures. I can send you some pictures.
Yeah, please do.
Of that, and the graffiti highway there, the previous highway that got sectioned off, and then people started using it as a tourist attraction, and then the government wanted them to stop, so they started piling dirt on it, and then people were shoveling off those piles of dirt to get to the graffiti, to paint more graffiti. It's really interesting, really fascinating place. But
yeah, that's so cool. Wow.
Anyway, so that's going to be obviously an inspiration for this, but hopefully not take too much out of it.
Yeah,
anyway.
I'm seeing now as well on the Pinterest board a few photos there.
Yeah, of graffiti highway and stuff. Yeah, I stumbled upon that while I was looking for abandoned buildings Appalachia on there, and I'm like, oh yeah, Centralia, that's perfect. And so I started adding some things there, so you'll see some. So yeah, but that's why, is because it's the real life Silent Hill,
That's so cool. Wow.
So, yeah, so we could talk at length about that and how that'll factor into it. I don't want it to take up, too much.
Too much time, yeah.
Too much or anything, because obviously this isn't about. We can do a comic in the future about Pennsylvania. That'd be fine with me. I like Pennsylvania, but
yeah, we could for sure.
But yeah, and that's something I think we should mention. We do plan to do comics in the future as well. This is just our first, hopefully one of many. We don't have any solid plans for the future, but we do plan. We think we work pretty well together. So
yeah, exactly. The way this collaboration's been going on, so far, it's like it's been going so smoothly. It's like why not work together more often?
Yeah. So, and I love your art. So that's a big part of it, What would you say are some of your influences for your art? Because it can vary pretty drastically sometimes.
Yeah. Wow. I don't know. There's so much I know. Okay, a big thing was that a lot of drawing I did was because of the side of YouTube I was on. So people
the side of what? Sorry, you cut out.
Of YouTube.
Yeah. Okay.
So people Draw with Jazza and Drawfee. I used to watch their videos to death, and I'm sure they've influenced the way I draw as well.
Okay.
And recently, I don't think you see too much of it in terms of style, but I bought a course by Aaron Blaze, which is a character animator who did work for Disney, on Brother Bear and The Lion King and stuff like that.
Yeah, cool.
And so I followed that course, and just kind of the way that he goes about constructing characters and keeping them. It was very much about keeping them suitable for animation, which isn't really what I'm doing, but
right.
That was super interesting as well.
Yeah, to learn from an animation great like that. That is pretty cool. Yeah. Huh. Okay. I asked that because I had been wondering just in general, but it's also relevant, so I figured I'd ask.
Yeah, it's definitely also relevant to the thing, but yeah, there's so much different art that I pull from. It's so hard to name everything.
Yeah, I get that. It's a hard question when anybody asking influences for the comic is a lot different, but then you get into influences for yourself, and it's I don't know. I watch a lot of this, or
Exactly.
I get that.
It's like one of those things where you could ask me and just give me some time, and I'd like write an essay on it.
Right,
You know, there's
right,
just so
yeah.
much to unpack.
Yeah, you get it. Well, I guess I should say my influences.
Yeah, yeah, your writing influences.
Yeah. So the the script that I do is one. The actual format of it is outlined by Peter David, the epic comic writer. So I got that directly from him, and I just happened to find how he said he does it. But my actual writing style, I read a lot of comics by a lot of different people, but I've got to say that probably my favorite writer is, for comics, one of them, is Brian Michael Bendis. And I know that might be...
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he's not the end-all be-all of comics, obviously, you know. He's made his mistakes and things. But generally I really like his style, and obviously it wouldn't lend itself well to a horror comic, so I'm gonna step away from that. But one of my favorite all-time writers who doesn't really do comics very much is Timothy Zahn. If you're not familiar with him,
I know
do you know the expanded universe for Star Wars?
Yeah, I know of it.
You know all of it?
No, I know of it.
Of it,
Like,
yeah.
yeah. I don't know all of it.
Yeah. I was gonna say that's an achievement if you can name every book in it. Yeah. He wrote the most influential and most coveted, most favorite books, the Thrawn trilogy, as it's known, which starts with Heir to the Empire. If you've ever heard of that, that's him. And he's also he wrote a second Thrawn trilogy for Disney. I'm reading a book by him right now, which is a StarCraft book. So it actually ties into one of the influences that for the actual comic is StarCraft. So I'm learning more about StarCraft to better, learn about my comic. But his writing style just works so well for really everything. Action, and he has these long spells of, like, one of his favorite things to do in his writing is character introspection. There's a whole lot of thinking about things, especially more existential things and problems that the characters are facing, and they will just be walking through a forest, or his favorite scene is just them standing on a balcony and looking over a city at night, and just with a drink in their hand and just thinking. And so but a lot of his stuff could lend itself really well to horror. His stuff usually isn't, but if he has written any horror stuff, I'll definitely read it and see if I can use some of that. But he just is so good at writing, and I feel like the best writers, you can see what they're saying, Yeah, and I want to aspire to that, is you can just see it, and I want you to be able to see what I write, so that you can just know, and then you just are able to...
And then I just put it down.
Yeah. You essentially represent my vision and make it your own. That's the idea that I want to happen there. It's been working so far. From the stuff that you've done, we're communicating really well, and it's, at least the way I see it, it's working perfectly. But yeah, so probably one of my biggest conscious influences is Timothy Zahn, just because I think he's such a good writer, and I love his works. I've actually gotten to meet him before, too. When I was 6 years old, I hadn't read a single thing that he did, or anything, but I was 6 years old, and he came to my city, and so we went to where he was, and it was a whole thing. I can remember going there and meeting him, but I couldn't remember his face. But my dad found the picture of me with him and sent it to me, and so I have that saved to my phone now, of me next to Timothy Zahn, and it's so cool.
Cool.
He was doing book signings and stuff too, so he even wrote me a little note in one of his books that I still have, and signed it for me and everything, which is really, it's really cool that all these years later, over a decade later, I picked up his books, and I'm like, he's one of my favorite writers of all time. You know, it's just really cool. So I'll share that photo eventually, but obviously I'm not showing my face now, so that's why I haven't.
Yeah,
But
that's all good.
As soon as I
Man,
do,
that's so cool.
yeah, it was a great experience. I wish I would have been able to appreciate it at the time, but at least I can look back and appreciate it now. And the guy's still alive,
Yeah,
you know. I might be able to reach out to him sometime. So,
Exactly.
you know, he's still writing stuff too. He's older now, but he's still chugging along with Disney and stuff. So, yeah, really great stuff from him. So, I know I hadn't mentioned that to you before, but that's one of my biggest influences there. So,
Nice.
anyway, well, do we have anything else that we really want to touch on?
Actually, I think as far as the comic goes, we've
Pretty much.
pretty much discussed it.
Yeah.
Right.
Obviously, there's some things that we're leaving out because we don't
Yeah.
want to spoil anything, and we don't want to give you guys too much.
Exactly. Like
so
we,
that
we have
you-
more than
Right.
we've
Yeah.
discussed today, but that's the
More
leaving
progress
out
has been
intentionally.
done.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
oh. There's one last thing that I know I want to touch on.
Mm-hmm.
Scott, I believe it's Cienson, that's how I'll say his name. Scott Cienson wrote most of the Silent Hill comics and unfortunately died pretty young, at age 40.
Wow. Yeah.
In 2014, I believe it was. So 10 years ago, as of announcing this book. I do not like his work at all. And part of, I had come up with this concept before reading his comics, but part of making this a reality has been reading his comics and disliking them. And you can read my reviews of most of them. I haven't finished them, but I really do not like the way that he takes Silent Hill. I feel like it's almost a perversion of the series. No disrespect to the man himself. I want to make that clear. But I really don't like his stuff. But he did tragically die pretty young. I'm going to look up how he died just so I don't get it wrong.
Right.
But let me see. He was a New York Times best-selling author. Oh, he was 51, my bad. 51, not 40. Sorry, I'm looking this up. Blood clot to the brain. That's how he died. In August of 2014. So.
Wow. Yeah.
So 10 years ago. And so I will be dedicating the comic to him because of his early passing, and because he inspired me to write better comics, I guess I want to say, because I don't like his comics and I think they're poorly written. And that sounds mean, but I don't want to be too mean to him. So anyway, okay. So I wanted to add that too. So if there's a dedication there, you know why.
Exactly. That's kind of the explanation.
Yeah, because otherwise it's like, who's this guy? So anyway, okay. Well, I think that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm scrolling through the doc, but I think
Yeah.
I think we've said our piece.
Cool. We got an hour in. That's pretty good.
No,
So-
it ended up being quite a talk still.
Yeah, yeah, it did. We went over lots of influences. There's lots to be excited about, and more details to come and everything. But this has really been an overview of what we've done so far. So, yeah, we're gonna shoot for 2025 release date. Not getting any more specific than that for right now, but 2025. So be looking for it not on store shelves. It's gonna release digitally.
Exactly, digitally.
Yes, but keep up to date with us on. People can follow you on League of Comic Geeks at. How do you pronounce the thing again?
Chuchua.
Chuchua.
I can put it in chat as well, because
Yeah, do that.
trying to guess how to spell that
Chuchua.
by pronunciation alone.
Yeah, that would be impossible. Obviously, I know how to spell it, but
Yeah.
QnA, yeah. And obviously, you can follow all updates for me right here on Roxy's Ramblings and on my League of Comic Geeks page, where you can also follow Joshua. For me, it's at Roxy Robin. That's with a Y, not an I, and no spaces. And I guess that's pretty much it. Thank you so much, Joshua, for joining me today.
All good. Thanks for
It's-
hearing me out. Thanks for
yeah.
listening to me talk about stuff.
I'm so glad that we could do this because I wanted to do it for a while, but you know it's just really good to have you here and to talk to you, actually talk to you for the
Yeah.
first time. It's really cool.
Yeah, that would be a fun fact because
Yeah.
today was pretty much the first time we've actually spoken to each other that like somewhere that wasn't Discord or
Right,
or
yeah.
the league.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy. So
Mm.
anyway, okay, I will talk to you soon, or text with you soon at least.
Yes.
And we will
yes.
get even more underway with the project. All right.
All right.
Goodbye, and goodbye, everyone. Thank you so much